2016, newsmakers, analysts, and reporters were out on the Sunday morning talk shows, but only one, just one, gets the last word. That honor today goes to Montana Governor Brian Schweitzer. He's the chairman of the Democratic Governors Association, and I caught up with him earlier this week at the state capitol in Helena. Let me start by asking you a question about the elections just passed. You're the head of the Democratic Governors Association. It was not a good year. What happened?
Well, I think that history played out again. Both New Jersey and Virginia have been electing people from the opposite party of the president. Governor's races aren't like congressional races. When you elect your congressional member, you're thinking about what laws they might pass, and are they part of the administration's plan for health care or the war or taxation or whatever it might be. But when you elect a governor, it's singular. You're looking for your chief executive. So they're not really tied to a national party in the way that a member of Congress would be.
You don't see any national message in the voting, particularly maybe the defection of independents from the Democrats to the Republicans. If not a message, do you see a cause of concern for your party?
No, I don't think that you can say that this is a dot on any kind of a continuum. These are two races. They ran on their own dynamics. Those are individuals who are running for governor, and it just so happened that the two candidates were Democrats lost and so Republicans won. I don't think it means a dang thing for next year.
This is something you said before the election. You did have Virginia, right? You said that's a flip of the coin. I don't know which way that one ends, but you did tell Politico, I bet whatever money is in my pocket, he's going to win, referring to Corzine.
Dang good thing I only had $2 in my pocket that day.
What do you see as you look at these results? You say they're picking governors, but they picked two Republican governors. In two states, in New Jersey, they hadn't elected a Republican statewide since 1997. Democrats had won 5 of the last 7 elections for governor in the state of Virginia. So the voters did something.
Yeah, they voted for a couple of fellas who were just happened to be Republican. They looked the other direction, but I don't think that it's a trend. This was a tough cycle for incumbents. And in the case of Virginia, while there wasn't an incumbent, they were looking at the other party because the last 2 governors had been Democrats, and so they were looking to the other side. So I think, if anything, it's been a tough cycle for incumbents, and I expect maybe even the next cycle to be tough for incumbents.
For incumbents or for Democrats? Because history would suggest, especially the president's first midterm, is usually very tough for his party.
Yeah, but this is a competitive business. When you're hiking in grizzly bear country like Montana, it isn't that you have to be particularly fast. You just have to be faster than somebody you're hiking with. And the Republican Party, they pull a little lower in the belly of a snake right now. So, Democrats have got to do a better job getting their message out. But right now, the population doesn't really like the Republican message.
If they don't like the Republican message, what would your advice be to Democrats going into this climate next year? What are they doing wrong if they need to do a better job to get their message out?
I'm not going to say they do anything wrong, but I can tell you what people care about most, and that's jobs. If there's a concern about 3 or 4 issues that are at the top, and that's health care, climate change, and the war, they all are second place to jobs. If you look at 10% unemployment, that seems high. But if you're one of the families that are unemployed, that's a depression.
Do you worry about maybe a sense of disconnect? We travel every week, and this is 45 states that we have visited, and you cannot find anybody, whether they're upper middle class or whether they're at the bottom of the rung, who hasn't had to do something because of this recession, cancel a vacation, deal with personal finances, refinance if they can, maybe face foreclosure. Just about everybody has had some sort of impact from this recession. Do they look at Washington and see their government doing the same thing?
No. In fact, I think that those members of Congress are going to be surprised when they come home. I suppose since Harry Truman, members of Congress, both Democrats and Republican, they come home to get reelected, and they tell people and they remind people of all the water projects and sewer projects and all the roofs they put on buildings and all the highways they built, effectively bribing people with their own money. They're going to find out the mood of the folks back home is such that people have said, look, whoa. I put money in my own bed. Under my own bed. I have increased my savings account. I'm not spending like I used to, and I want you to do the same. It wouldn't be a bad idea for government to understand that people believe that saving money is more important than spending money right now.
Well, let me ask your opinion about the health care debate. There's a $1.1 trillion over 10-year plan that moved through the House of Representatives. The Senate plan is $880 or $890 billion over 10 years. Is that what we need right now?
I don't think either one of those plans as written is going to pass. I think that we will get health care reform, and I think that we need health care reform. We pay twice as much as virtually every other country in the world, and our result is not as good as some 35 or 36 other countries. What Congress really ought to be working on is price controls. I'll bet you 6 months ago you could have walked into a room of 500 people anywhere in America and said, "Who loves their health insurance company? Raise your hand." And not a dang hand to go up. But after all this discussion and scaring people, people are saying, "Oh, gee, I wouldn't want to lose my private health insurance company." But yet just 6 months ago, nobody liked them.
Well, what's your sense of the politics of this? The public option is a policy question. Whether you should have tort reform is a policy question. How much flexibility you give the states is a policy question. There are those in the White House who say the president said this was his #1 priority, and he said he wants it this year, and therefore we have to do it this year, and they're pressuring the Democrats in Congress to try to get it done this year. Is that the most important thing from a political standpoint? Is there a credibility test?
Well, I don't have a vote in Congress, but I'll go back to what my premise was. The most important thing for the American people right now is jobs. If we get people back working, they've got money in their pocket, and then they'll be concerned about health care next, then they'll be concerned about education next, and on down the line. But as long as you don't have a job, you're not going to be happy until you're working again.
Does that mean they should put health care aside until they figure out the economy and they have more money in Washington, or?
No, I mean, there's 535 members of Congress. They ought to be able to keep 1 or 2 balls in the air at the same time. If they're telling me now that they can only keep 1 ball at a time, then we got the wrong people in Congress.
You've been a chief executive for some time. President's 10 months in, heading into 11 months into his first term. What, from a chief executive perspective, what's he doing right and what might he do better?
Well, I'm not going to give advice to the President of the United States, but I will say this, that in Montana, our legislature meets for just 90 days every other year, and the citizens are safe the rest of the days while the legislature is not in session. I think that a strong chief executive sets your priorities, reaches out and finds those people that will support your priorities, work a deal with the people that aren't currently supporting it, find common ground with other people, and then you pass legislation. Now, I think that that's what the president's attempting to do, but he's got a lot of strong personalities in Congress, both Democrats and Republicans.
What do you make when you look at his polling as someone who's been through the highs and lows and the roller coaster of public opinion, in the sense that he stays very popular personally, but if you go issue by drop, and in some cases substantially?
Well, first, I think the poll says that the people of the United States like him and trust him. On these issues, it's easy to get people confused because you hear one side, then you hear the other side. But if they like their leader and they trust their leader, they'll follow their leader because they believe in him.
It's a bit early for this question, but what happens to the term-limited governor of Montana when he's done?
Well, first off, I got one of the smartest, best-looking dogs in America, and I might say that I'm one of the best trout fishermen, at least in my own mind, and so I think we'll spend a little time together fishing on the ranch.
No other plans at the moment?
No.
Governor, thanks for your time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Jag is the governor's dog, and he's a great and a fun dog. Up